Happy Friday, everybody. I hope y'all had a really great week. I've had a very busy week, and it's really nice out. I'm hoping it stays nice out today because in Pittsburgh there's going to be a big art crawl that's going on downtown, and there's also First Friday, I believe, that's happening all over the city. So there's Garfield and Shadyside and lots of good stuff that's going on tonight. So there's a topic that I'd like to share with all of you that's getting completely ignored in all the media, regardless of whether it's mainstream or alternative whatnot. No one's paying attention to Steve Scalise. All right, I'm going to just throw that name out there. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute. But that's generally, there's a big story that I'd like to talk about when it comes to Steve Scalise. So I've been researching this the last few days, and I want to begin this video with a little bit of art. I want to show you something. So let's switch this around, if I can. You guys, I am so not technical, am I not? There we go, there it is. All right, so here we are on the third floor. I want to show you something. So last year, I put this together, and it's metal, and it's ceramic, and as we get closer, this metal I had as part of the campfires that I would do, and I just threw it in the fire, and this is what happened. It turned into this really neat metal piece. It's like molten lava in a sense. Right? And then as you get closer, these little dots are not dots. They're people. They're people. Oh, there goes my hair. And I call this the art of war. And of course it's available. It's available for purchase. And a lot of my work that I've been taking video of the last month or so is still available. So if you want to check out some of those videos that I did probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I also post them on YouTube as well. Just check them out. See if there's something that you like. And shoot me an email or shoot me a message and make an offer if you'd like. So today is all about the art of war and the war of art. So I've been doing some looking up about this whole Scalise thing. And something happened to me the other day. I was just about to go to sleep, and just as I was about to go to sleep, this news thing popped up on my feed. And it said, Steve Scalise immediately got some kind of infection and had to hurry up and get put into the hospital again. Now you'd think that would sound pretty innocuous. You know, oh gosh, something happened, he got sick again. But here's the thing. It was immediately the Washington Post, and they were the first ones to know about it, which is very strange. Something just made me feel uncomfortable about that. So then I Googled it, and I wanted to Google if there was anything else that had popped up about Scalise prior to this, meeting saying he was going to the hospital. And something interesting popped up. A Republican, he was hanging out with a friend, a Tennessee congressman, 6 hours before. What is his name? I just wrote so many notes, you guys, because it was just like, you gotta be kidding me. 6 hours before, Phil Rowe had told the Red State, I guess the Red State is some sort of news place, that he just got out of bed and he was actually doing really, really well. This is 6 hours before out of nowhere he gets this really strange infection out of nowhere and has to get rushed into surgery, and now he's in super duper bad condition, and no one's hearing anything. No one's even talking about it in the news at all. That to me was that to me already is just not good. If you know anything about what they did to Andrew Breitbart and what they did to Seth Rich, I mean, the thing is, guys, that, you know, there's such a bigger story that's going on right now, and I want to share this whole concept of art of war and misinformation and throwing darts in places that really throw off most of the people, while other things happen behind closed doors, and we miss out. So while we're all, I mean, granted, I'm loving these CNN memes. They're hysterical. Don't get me wrong. I'm loving it. Like, it's hysterical. But we're focusing so much attention right now on the CNN memes, and we're focusing so much attention on Trump being at the G20. This is a perfect opportunity for behind closed doors to get rid of someone who's extremely vital in the fight against human trafficking. And that's who Steve Scalise is. Now, for me personally, I didn't know how much and for how long Steve Scalise had been really in this fight until the shooting, when I really started looking into him. Hey, Mac. So get this, starting in 2015, Steve Scalise, who was running the House of Representatives, okay, he was the House Majority Leader, he was already putting into place like 12 different bills that were going to fight against human and sexual child trafficking. I posted in the comments below, earlier today I posted all eyes on Scalise, we're watching MedStar. And if you want to go through the comments that I listed, there's different articles that I posted to show what I'm talking about, as well as the actual legislation that he was pushing since 2015. Interestingly enough, within that legislation, this is another thing that got me. So apparently in 2015, the legislation that I posted in those comments below, 420 to 3 congressmen in the House of Representatives passed to expand law enforcement efforts and provide help for sex trafficking, which mostly is a crime that affects young people. They're forced into it through parents or supposed friends or whatnot into these sort of situations. Apparently Obama did sign it, but then it got stuck in the Senate. So Obama could be the good guy, but the Senate, because they can hide behind the word of Senate, stopped it, and it kind of went into limbo. Apparently it actually did go through as far as right now, but interestingly enough, the day there was more legislation that was supposed to go through the day that Scalise got shot. They actually had a meeting. They had all said he was going to introduce 12 more bills about it, and that was the day that he got shot. Okay, this isn't coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence. Okay. Within one of the articles that I was reading, the executive director of Covenant House New Orleans, who I actually personally met in the fall, he's an amazing guy. His name's Jim Kelly. Okay, and he's executive director of the Covenant House in New Orleans. This is what he had said about the bills that Scalise was trying to push through. Now, you know, New Orleans sees a lot of this kind of stuff. And when I went to visit Covenant House in New Orleans past fall, I mean, you know, it's just right there. It's really, so they're very much involved in trying to protect kids. A lot of kids go from broken homes into foster homes, and then they're completely vulnerable to these kind of situations. So listen to this. This is what Jim Kelly said about these bills. He says the bills will help fund critically needed services for young sexual trafficking victims and survivors. We are delighted that the bill will soon be signed by the president, and this is in 2015. Sadly, the Senate let politics get in the way of this critically needed legislation. Over 100 young people who walk through the doors of Covenant House each year are victims of human trafficking. The monies allocated in this bill will help us to provide an even better care and services to these vulnerable young women, and I will add personally men as well. Young boys are definitely used as well. Hopefully the vital funds will come with Godspeed. Now, within the legislation, when I was reading it, there was one aspect, and you all can read it too and check it out. They talked about the HERO Act of 2015. And the HERO Act specifically talked about what ICE is. Now, you know how ICE, they talk about immigration and everyone's all against ICE. A lot of the mainstream media was really throwing ICE under the bus, basically making them the bullies of immigration law. And a lot of stories that I kept hearing in the spring, sorry, I just need a little bit more light. It's a little dark over there. You know, when a lot of us were listening to what the media was perceiving ICE to be about, it was, oh, they're going into random immigrant homes and they're trying to get rid of illegal immigrants and they're just being big bullies. That's what we kept hearing. Okay? But point of fact, do we really understand what ICE's true job is? It's listed here in the HERO Act of 2015. Now listen carefully. ICE had a 5-point specific agenda within this bill about stopping global import of children or export of children, women, any kind of trafficking, including, of course, the drug trafficking and organ trafficking as well. This is all connected, you guys. Literally, you can read this within the HERO Act. And this is really bothersome to me because literally their job was to track international gang mafia criminals aligned with human trafficking, drug, and organ trafficking. This bill specifically laid out that ICE's job was to investigate child exploitation, child porn, follow up on cyber web crimes, and being able to follow up on it, dealing with international illegal gangs. Forced child labor, sexual exploitation of minors. They provided counseling for their ICE personnel in dealing with a lot of things that they have to see that are absolutely horrendous within this child trafficking network, and have training on how to deal with the fallout of trying to help these kids. Who isn't saying that? Who are the people that keep saying that ICE is just being big bullies? I think we need to look at those folks. I was looking at a lot in San Francisco. San Francisco is really cutting down. The whole city is shutting down against ICE. Well, I also know that San Francisco is highly, highly pedophilic. So I think we should start looking at some of those folks that are trying to twist the truth and trying to only give us just a little bit of information so that we think that ICE are the bad guys, and start looking at these folks. That really freaked me out, you guys. I just found this out. I was on the fence with exactly what ICE was about. I wasn't sure. But the more and more you look into these things and you find out what they're really about, and you start going past the onion, you start unveiling these onion layers, you start realizing who are the real liars. And then you start wondering who's benefiting from lying. This is really big stuff. I mean, this is really, really big stuff, you guys. And shutting down Scalise. And right now, while everyone's paying attention to the G12, everyone's paying attention to the CNN memes, everyone's paying attention to everything else, right now Scalise is automatically, out of nowhere, back in the hospital with some strange infection that no one knows what it is. The hospital isn't talking too much about it. This is classic. I mean, this has happened so many times with the most important truth seekers, well, for decades. We cannot let anything happen to Steve. Everyone needs to be on guard and watching and letting them know, letting people know that everyone is watching what happens to Steve Scalise. And if someone tries to poison him, if all of a sudden something happens during surgery or post-surgery that seems really fishy, they need to know that we know what's up and we're following it. We're paying attention. He's a good man. He is a good man. The more you guys look into this, it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's just truly unbelievable. Who the hell is not behind ICE once you read the HERO Act of 2015? Those are the criminals. This is out of control. And they spin it to, they spin it to make all the people that are truly peaceful, illegal immigrants or the ones that just really are coming over, they're trying to make it seem like they should be afraid of ICE. But you know what? If you really go into those communities, you really talk to those folks, they're going to tell you they're terrified because they know who runs their own communities. Gangs. MS-13. Those people are terrified. Their children are taken from them. They can't say anything. Did you ever grow up in those kind of situations where like a gang or the mafia or people that know that you're already in a tricky situation? You might be cleaning homes. You got out of a bad situation in Colombia. Colombia is highly criminal. You run across the border. You want to be safe. You can afford a community where you probably already know some of the other people that came from there as well. But then the criminals follow. And they play the same games in those same communities, torturing and sexually assaulting the young people, taking them out. And then you've got the bigger elite that love using these gangs because they can traffic all this stuff through these people. Wake up. Wake up. The majority of people that come over here that aren't part of that whole thing, they don't want those guys either. And yet it's whenever it gets pushed into the news, it's like they're literally interviewing the bad guys as the bad guys are the victims, because no one tells the entire story. Why was that guy picked up? Was he part of MS-13? Passing along kids, I mean, there's crazy stuff that's going on. So, we really gotta pay attention, man. This is just nuts. This is really, really nutty stuff. So I also learned that, the guy that was shooting everybody, that nice little, I've got so many notes. What is his name? My goodness gracious. Hodgkinson's diseases. That's kind of an interesting name. So the guy that was the shooter for the baseball thing, I looked at each one of these specific people that he had on a list. Each one of them, in their own way, was in their own jurisdiction, was fighting against human trafficking in their own district. If you literally look up, these are the different names. I'll give you the different names, and then it's Scott Desarlais. Okay, Scott Desarlais. He's a Republican from Tennessee. Trent Franks is a Republican from Arizona. You've got Jeff Duncan, who was a Republican from South Carolina. Mo Brooks, he's a Republican from Alabama. Morgan Griffin, a Republican from Virginia. And I think that's all the names I have written down right now. Now, if you Google each one of their names and then you finish it with human trafficking, see what pops up. It's very interesting. And and honestly, I can go into all the different details if you'd like me to. But the point of the matter is that this is what's going on. And the point of the matter is right now, this is a huge war that's happening behind closed doors while everyone's listening to the fighting about fake news versus real news versus who said what about something stupid. We need to be watching, and we need to be really reading these legislations. We really got to realize who the enemies are and who the good guys are in this. each one of these folks in their own way, they were able to connect the abortion industry to what I've been talking about, the organ trafficking, and you know, the beauty industry. They see it. They can't talk about it like that, like we can talk about it as private citizens, but they see it. There's one guy on here that I'm sure, like, he is just really, Trent Franks. I mean, goodness gracious, this guy is like totally on their enemy list. He's been understanding that CARE, it's Council on American Islamic Relations. I mean, he's known that they've been planning spies to basically decimate our sovereignty, to make people really believe that it doesn't matter if we're a nation or not, and implode us from the inside out. That's what's been happening. Listen to so many kids. They don't even want to have a nation anymore. They don't think it matters. It's like a total crazy self-hatred, like they've pushed self-destruct. It is something. And that is the art of war. If you can psyop people into not caring about themselves or caring about their community, not caring about the bigger issues, and listening to entities that seem to have your best interests at heart that really don't, then you've won. That's the art of war. And this is happening right now. So keep an eye out for Steve Scalise. You know, maybe tweet about it, Facebook about it. The thing is right now they are watching social media to figure out their next move, or what they're going to do. That's pretty much what social media is all about anymore. It has nothing to do with you just being in self-expression and just keeping in touch with your family, because with all the different algorithms that they're using now, they're able to find out how much people know, what they're interested in, how they have to like change their game on spinning things to get people to go along with certain things. So I think one way we really could save a life, I mean truly, I mean literally right now save a life, is to be social mediating, or, you know, getting it out there that we are talking about Steve Scalise. You just ask a question. You know, even if you don't believe the rabbit hole and you really don't see all of these different connections, and that's okay, you know, at least ask a question. Can't hurt, because even if we're putting it out there, they're going to think twice about terminating him. They're going to think twice, and don't think that there aren't doctors, lawyers, people that are in, you know, all kinds of folks that can walk right into that hospital and just give him a quick little shot and he's done. Okay? Let's not let that happen to another good person, because there's so much corruption in our society, in a lot of different places, and if we can do one good thing, just as simple as this, doesn't cost any money. You don't have to get out of your home. You just have to get on your phone. That's pretty amazing. A lot of the sources, it seems, of pain, a lot of sources of pain, corruption, it all comes from destroying children. You destroy a kid's mentality, you destroy their soul, you do these things, and it just it creates all of this in the first place. So if we can stop that, that'd be pretty great. Art of war. Know your enemy. And don't be afraid. You know? It means a lot to me to share these certain things, because I'm surprised that within my own journey how this has kind of connected. Because when I was down in New Orleans, we did meet with Covenant House, and you know, one thing that was very important to me, just from my own experiences of young people getting exploited through the music industry or through the entertainment industry, each time that we'd meet with Covenant Houses or different drop-in youth centers for these very vulnerable kids, you know, I'd say, you know, we just have to make sure that whatever mentorship that we're doing, that the people that are involved with mentoring these kids are not going to corrupt them. It's very important. Because that's how these folks work. You break, you know, they know that if you've got a broken home, kids are searching for someone that cares about them, someone that will give them attention, someone who won't make them feel alone. Well, predators know how to do that, like professional, you know? And so that's why it happens so much with broken families, single parent homes, foster care situations, all kinds of things like that. And it's big money. And you wonder why in the media, television programming, movies, they're always trying to down the concept of marriage. They're downing the concept of you know, even real commitment to another person and creating a family anymore. If you really listen to it, you know, some of it, a lot of it is subliminal now. They don't even care. It's just out there, you know. A lot of instability. Well, who's profiting from that instability? Did you know that human trafficking and all of this stuff, it is the third biggest global economy next to drugs and war. Probably war, drugs, and then human trafficking. So, you know, it's no wonder that all the movies that get put out are encouraging, and the music, all these different things encourage breaking up the family, breaking up that bond, you know, breaking up that stability, and leaving the kids wide open to complete vulnerability because it's profitable. Whew, that's some awful stuff, isn't it? Very awful stuff. And you find out what happened with the Pope. Boop. Mafia and Vatican. Don't they come from the same place? You can't make this stuff up, you guys. What happened at Vatican the other day has been going on for a long time. And all the stuff that was going on with what they were doing to boys and doing to all those kids was on purpose. On purpose. On purpose. There's if you haven't ever checked out this guy, his name is Jonathan Kleck. If you want to go down a serious rabbit hole, and again, you know, it's funny. Some people go, you know, Kim, you go down these different paths. Well, you know what? It's more interesting to find out what all kinds of different people are talking about than just listen to one narrative that always profits from just listening to that. So I really enjoy listening to. There's someone screaming outside. Oh my gosh. Do you hear that? Gotta love it. Gotta love it. So yeah, I mean, his name is Jonathan Kleck, and he's got some very interesting insights to Vatican, and it's kind of a good time to do it, to listen to him, because after everything that's been breaking with that, it's probably a good idea. So let's talk about my art for just a second. For those of you who would like to see more of it, because a lot of the art does talk about these things, but it also gives hope. And sometimes it's the last thing that I talk about. Most of the time it's the last thing I talk about. But it is important if you're interested in learning more about my work as far as the art goes, and you like what I'm talking about with these other things. You know, I mean, some of these things are difficult to hear, but they are revealing so that we can live in truth, and we don't have to be basically get our milkshake drunk for the rest of our lives. Check out kimberrystudio.com if you'd like. Also on YouTube, I posted about 5 different videos to give you an art tour of the different work and talked about the different stories of the work. If something pops out at you and you really like it, you want to collect, that's what keeps me going. You know, I live on very little because I really believe in taking the time to research these things and being there for my mom, and just trying to make it work under the circumstances. But it is important, if you're interested in the work and you like it, shoot me a message, you know, make me an offer, you know. We'd love for you to have it. Also, I joined Patreon, so even if you want to donate $1 a month, just because you like what I do, or you're interested in it, and it can keep me having the time to keep researching and do more work about this sort of thing. I mean, obviously not just human trafficking, it's just right now that's the issue on hand. That is what's going on right now. And so I really am focused on that so that we can get beyond it. And that's good. That's good. So let's, Art of War. Art of War. Art of War. You know what I find so interesting about Planned Parenthood? Check out how much money they make. That's all. When you get into a for-profit, and they'd say it's a non-profit, but it's a for-profit. It's a billion-dollar company. When you're talking about those kind of numbers, are they going to be encouraging or discouraging from people having to get into that situation in the first place? That's all I'm going to say. And they don't tell you where the rest of it goes, because I promise you it doesn't get thrown in the trash. And you're paying for it too, in a lot of different ways. That's not cool. All right. Well, you know, I guess I'm just really hoping everyone takes a look at Steve Scalise. Just say one thing today about him. Just one thing. Even if it's just a simple question, or just type his name on your news feed. That's all. It would really, it could save his life. I really mean that. Because if these folks know that no one's paying attention, he's going to get snuffed. But if people know, if they know that people are still paying attention to him and what's going on right now, he could save his life. And I really do mean that. I mean, you know, I'm not off the rocker with this one. I'm not. So, anyway, I hope that kind of helps a little bit with figuring out these different legislation things. I was actually really blown away when I read that legislation, the 12 bills that Steve Scalise had been put into place. I suggest everyone read it, you know. And then maybe that'll make more sense why he was targeted. Especially under all the circumstances of what's coming out right now, what we understand is happening. So, all right, well, I hope you guys have a really great weekend. And it doesn't look like it's going to rain anymore, so that's really good. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. But I'm going to go make some art and just have a good day. So, okay, I'll see you guys soon.